Hey everyone, David Staub here with the Maegical Stories of Healing and Spiritual Gifts podcast, and I just wanted to take a second and say thank you all so much for listening in and being part of our community. Megan and I both are so grateful for every one of you, all your support in this movement, and we did want to take a minute and let you know that we will never charge for our podcast. We want this information out there free, and it helps start changing the world. That being said, we do want to take a second and let you know about some of the products that we believe in that we're using. One of those being Anchor, which you're listening to right now. If you've never heard of Anchor, it's literally the easiest way to make a podcast. It's totally free. Megan and I didn't know how to make a podcast before. We use it. It's free. It actually lets you record podcasts right from your phone or your computer, and it automatically distributes the podcast for you to be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, all over. And you can also make money from it too. There's no minimum listenership. It's everything you really need to make a podcast in one place. So if you've ever thought about making a podcast, go to anchor.fm and sign up to get started. Have a great day, and I'm looking forward to continuing to learn from every one of you.
Hello?
Hey, you there, Matthew?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, awesome. Few technical
Right
difficulties.
now I have you up on my computer, but I can also try this same URL on my phone. What do you think?
We can hear you fine here.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, no, perfect. I'll even crank you up a little bit. Oh, good. I'm glad I found you. Okay, give me just a second here, because we're not live, right?
No.
Nope.
Oh, good. So we can goof off and do all kind of stuff.
Oh.
Okay, good.
Actually,
Now,
it just
one
started.
second.
It
Yeah,
did
I
just.
wanna-
It's totally cool, man.
Awesome. Let me crank you up here. So
Cool.
I got you dialed in.
People can see the behind the
Yes,
scenes.
for anyone listening, it's the behind the scenes of how we're.
Yeah, this is the dirt. This is all the glamour stuff they never tell you about. Okay, I got you. So I can hear you okay, and you can hear me good, right?
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and kick off. But welcome everyone to the Maegical Stories of Healing and Spiritual Gifts podcast. My name is David Staub. I got my lovely wife Megan with me,
Hey guys.
and we are super excited to talk to Matteo. Did I say your last name right? Pallamary.
Any Pallamary is a pal of mine.
I love it. You've never ever used that before.
I learned it in the first grade when that's what the kids started saying to me.
I love it. And from your bio, it sounds like that's when you basically began studying shamanism, around the first grade, huh?
Well, as soon as I learned I could hyperventilate, and then sniffing glue, and then cannabis and everything else that came after that, I was always wanting to have every experience I could possibly get within.
Man, I love
my mottos as a kid.
I love it. I'm so much of an extremist myself. I totally vibe with that. So to introduce everyone to you, Matt, you go by Matteo?
Yeah, well, anybody who knows me in terms of ayahuasca in the jungle and Peru and all that, they know me as Matteo. Some people only know me as Matteo.
Brother, that's what I want to call you. I want to call you Matteo then. We'll do that. Matteo is an award-winning writer. He's a musician, a sound healer, and this is so cool because I feel so driven to speak to you for so many, kind of aligned with so much stuff that I'm interested in. He's also been studying and incorporating shamanism into his life, basically all your life. Is that right?
Pretty much. I mean, I was doing a lot of shamanic stuff before I even knew what it was, if that makes any sense.
That's so cool, man. It was ingrained in your freaking DNA.
Absolutely. I want to know.
Well, yeah.
From
I'm sorry?
originally. Where are you from originally?
Oh, okay, so I grew up in Boston, in Dorchester, or as we like to say, Dorchester, where I parked my car in Harvard Yard. And,
Nice.
Just as an example, Marky Mark Wahlberg, the actor, and Donnie Wahlberg are both from my neighborhood. I'm a little older than they are, but we grew up in the same neighborhood.
Okay. That's so cool.
Oh my gosh, I remember I was one of those kids that didn't want to fit in with everyone, and my grandma got me a New Kids on the Block t-shirt when I was elementary. And I cried because I didn't want to be like everyone else wearing them, which was so funny, thinking of Marky Mark and man.
That's sweet.
So going back to like, you know, where you were raised and all, were you raised in a spiritual environment, upbringing?
Oh, hell no. I grew up. So one more little thing to say, that the little story about the cute story there about the T-shirt and all that. In terms of the neighborhood, I was the kid that your mother told you to stay away from.
Okay.
Okay.
So I grew up in a Irish Catholic neighborhood, and it was all the parochial schools, although I used to call them Pinocchio schools. So, you know, my grandmother was a raging Catholic. I was always skeptical, and I remember being a little kid and like seeing these guys going out and getting drunken, getting in fights and beating their wives, and then they'd be in church on Sunday morning, all pious and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Can I say curse words?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I've forgotten myself on the air live, and so.
So you're totally
I was like
fine,
5 or 6 years old, and my first thought is, this is bullshit. I ain't buying this shit.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So then, you know, I used to, you know, we had our own little tricks. Like I would get sent off to church in Sunday school, and of course I would play hooky, and I would take the money I was supposed to put in the basket and go buy donuts and stuff like that. And then,
I love it.
I never did it because I wasn't this bad. But a lot of my buddies, they would put their hand in the basket like they're putting money in, and they would take it out. And we'd have a really good time afterward.
Oh my God.
But you know,
Wow.
yeah, I saw the hypocrisy. My old man did hard time in prison, so I was on the streets kind of at a young age. And so one of the things I said about my book, this is all in my book. I have a memoir, Spirit Matters. But
Nice.
You know, it talks about all this. But initially, I just thought, I'm not poor. It's just that everybody else is rich. I mean, I really thought like that.
Oh, wow.
But I escaped, and anytime I ever saw anything going in a particular trend or the newest thing or a fad, I typically run in the other direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even in school, when I was a kid, like I was 9, and I was pissed off because they were making me go to school and they weren't paying me.
Oh my.
Anyway,
Oh my
God. On and on. But I've always been rebellious, and now I'm at this point in my life. I'm very thankful for continuing to be the rebel.
Wow, that's so awesome. I mean, I couldn't imagine as a child seeing that hypocrisy. I mean, it had to kind of, and then everyone, it's got to kind of shatter your viewpoint of religion and all that when you see the hypocrisy right there in front of your eyes. I mean, no wonder it was like, I'm going to go buy some donuts because at least I know that's real. I mean, well, I can see where you're.
In the end, I just hated them all.
Yeah.
I was involved in politics when I was 9. I was working on a governor's campaign in Massachusetts, where I was raised.
Massachusetts, nice.
And I'm full of them. Anyway, so I was involved with politics. I was indirectly involved with the Kennedys and blah, blah. And I got tired of that stuff then, and I walked. And over time, I came to the realization, and this is everything I say is all in my universe.
Yeah.
Everybody can have their own universes. So I'm not saying this
Absolutely.
is the truth about existence and, I am a guru and follow me off the cliff or whatever. None of that.
Hell yeah, man, dude. Well, yeah, whatever's you is your experience. I love it. Let's hear it.
Yep.
All right, thank you, bro. So
yeah,
in my reality, politicians, the clergy, big business, the mafia, no difference. They're all the same.
Yeah,
man, I
totally
couldn't freaking agree with you more.
Yeah.
1,000%.
So I wouldn't want to go and be okay. They all suck. I hate them all. I could go and find them all and give them a big hug and blow myself up or something. But frankly, they're not worth my energy.
Yeah,
right, totally.
Yeah. So what I prefer to do, I'm laughing at myself, but I've always been subversive. Like, okay, I'm 64. I've had a lot of experience in different realms. And now if I can influence younger people, which I do constantly,
Yeah.
and let them benefit from all the bullshit that I went through.
Yeah.
Man, I
Right.
resonate.
Dude,
with that.
that's the realest way you could have said it.
Yeah. So they could literally almost leapfrog me in consciousness. Maybe 20 years of my fucking battles.
Yeah.
Man,
Right?
yeah.
If you think of it in terms of, hey, I went there for you, right?
Yes,
Wow.
man, I get that.
You are lost. I mean, you know what's happened to me over the years. So I've been going into I'm going into the Amazon for 20 years, working with ayahuasca, plant dietas, blah 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 blah.
Sick.
And I studied it for 10 years before that. And when I first started going, I'd come back and people would say to me, even people who weren't into the plants, man, they'd say to me, thanks for going there for us. And thanks for going there for me. And it took me a while to figure it out. And I finally did, in my own way. So if I could do that in a, and I'm being a little facetious, but in a subversive way, and I influence younger minds who are picking up the reins, because I'm 64, so I don't want to say I'm on the downslope, but I think my prize fighting days are over, I think, at this point. Stuff like that. So,
Man, dude, you're the epitome of using it. Like, you're literally like such an influencer now in all these things. I love what you said. You said it in the most real way you could. Like, all this shit you went through, you tell people about it, and they can kind of like learn from that. You know,
they don't have to go through it.
Yeah.
And man, I could freaking
I get it, man.
not to go off on a tangent, but
No,
something that's been
fun.
coming. Well, something that's been coming to me. This has been more of a recent realization, which it might have been obvious to you for a lot longer. But as I've been going through my spiritual awakening more and more, man, I mean, I know this might be controversial. I know this might be extreme, but dude, and this comes from someone that I grew up straight up conservative military household. I was in the Marine Corps myself. Like, I was on the other end so much because I was so freaking conditioned and programmed one. I'm not saying nothing bad about it, but I was conditioned one way. And now, man, my eyes after ayahuasca, I swear, it's like a veil's been pulled over. And I'm like, dude, the government's freaking evil. I'm not saying all the people that are in it, they might not be aware of what's going on. Maybe some of them might not be aware of what's going on. But man, the more I see it, the more I'm like, wait, when I start to connect the dots, dude, there's like some kind of dark spirit taking over the government that's like making us, I mean, I don't know, man. Politicians, government, it's so extreme, but I really think they're evil, man.
Yeah. I could give you a rap about that if you would like, but I want to commend you for you said you were Marines?
Yes, sir.
Good job, bro. I was Air Force.
Oh, good stuff, man. Hey, we're all brothers. We're all part of that same team.
I always, growing up in that state of mind, I hated all that the most, and I thought the only way I'm going to survive this is to plunge myself in the middle of it. And then figure out what's going on there. And then if nothing else, I know the enemy from the inside out.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Metaphorically speaking.
Right, of course.
So I have a sense of how it works, and I have a sense of the things I learned on the street. I was a street kid, all the gang stuff, blah, blah,
Yeah.
That was my upbringing in those times. And what I saw and what I observed. I'll tell you a couple of things I'm going to put straight out. Ultimately, what I want the most out of existence is truth. And it drives me. So one of the things I discovered on a big level, deep level, is that one of the best ways to find the truth is to face your fear.
Wow.
And that's one of the most tremendous lessons I learned from ayahuasca, because ayahuasca will take you there and it'll rub your face in it, and then it'll spank your ass, and then it'll throw you up into heaven for a while, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get the heaven part. Maybe next time.
Well, you got, I used to work with a crazy chief from the Navy who drank all night and came in and worked with us on this thing we were doing. And he used to say to me, if you want to fly with the eagles, you got to scratch with the chickens. So, one of the things that I learned about ayahuasca is a big part of the truth is trying really to find the center.
Yeah.
So when you start to get closer to the center, then if you keep working, you gain the ability to be equally objective, whether you're in heaven or hell.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, still being in, full on awe in those moments. And even, so tremendously powerful that you feel like you simply can't take it, or you will cease to exist, and you just can't take anymore. And exactly at the same time, you're like, I hope this never ends.
Right. Right.
Those threshold, whatever you want, those moments of awareness, or whatever you want to call it, right? So
man, that's
Yeah, so I've always been about truth. There's a famous, I'm a perspiring writer for like 36 years now. And there's a guy, Robert McKee, who teaches a famous screenwriting class over 3 days, which I've been to. And he came to speak at the writers' conference where I was teaching. And I love what he had to say. And I got his book, and when he signed it to me, he wrote into me, "Write the truth."
Wow.
And that was like uber profound moment. But anyway, I can ramble on in any direction you would like. I'm at your service. But ultimately, you got to driving.
No, I love it, man. It's the truth aspect is so powerful, because it's like we're conditioned so heavily to care so much what people think. So many people nowadays are living a false life, because they're basing all their decisions, all their actions, their freaking life off of what their family thinks, off of what their friends think, off of what the internet thinks, off of like their political party, all this crazy stuff. So I love that. And you go to freaking ayahuasca, and man, that will literally remove any shit you think that's full, that's BS. Like, it just wipes it clean. It's like, hey, what you think here's your now you're awakened.
Well, and before ayahuasca, I would have never shared my story ever. It was a dark secret that I kept to myself all these years. And post ayahuasca, I'm like, I went from one extreme, now like the whole world knows, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, man. It sounds like you've been through the ringer in regards to your childhood, and yes, your father locked up. That's got to be so tough. Well, as a child, what kind of a trauma do you feel like you've endured?
Let's just say, there was trauma, but let's just say it's the programming.
Yeah. Okay, I get that 100%.
So my old man was a big band jazz drummer. He was in the Navy big band. He was a private investigator, and he was also a codeine addict. And he got popped. He embezzled a bunch of money from Chinese people and got sent away.
Wow.
Now, I went through all my anger issues and but looking back in retrospect, he was on the USS California in World War II, and he got hit by a kamikaze, and his buddy was vaporized, and he had a plate in his head, and all they had was codeine. So I got to understand that his situation, he was just doing the best he could with what he had at the time.
Yeah.
So true.
The era and all that. So, one of my earliest memories, by the way, again, and I'm not plugging myself here, but all of this is in my memoir, Spirit Matters, and it's also an audiobook.
Oh man, dude! When you at the end, we want you to definitely talk on that. And we're just about at the 1,000 download mark. We're going to be publishing we'll put a link to your memoir when we publish this on all our channels too, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
There's God that I've been talking with you for freaking 10 minutes now, and there's not a doubt in my mind it could genuinely touch anybody on so many levels if they can read what you put out there. So no worries, man. Plug yourself all you want.
Good. Thank you, and bless you for that. So I narrated it, and I have a buddy, Greg Friedman, who has a show called Inner Journey up in Laguna Beach, California. And
it's our favorite place.
Yeah, so I've done a bunch of shows with him, and then he records them and we send them out as podcasts. So God, there was a reason I was telling you that. I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
I do that all the time. Don't worry, I do it every day. Well. But if it comes back to you, interrupt us, and we'll
3 o'clock
definitely...
in the morning. But
right. So I have to ask.
Yeah, we post them, we promote them everywhere, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but there's a podcast called The Psychedelic Salon, and I helped start that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We'd love to be on it sometime. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I can work that out. We're really tight. We went through a lot of stuff. Are you familiar with Terrence McKenna?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Father Psychedelics. I love Terrence McKenna.
Okay, so and I have pictures of this and all that. the very first book, the very first hardcover copy of my historical novel, Terrence, Land Without Evil, was gifted to Terrence as a gift from me when we knew he was dying. And it might have been the last book he ever read. I'll never know. So this is one of these funny little synchronicities you'll discover along this path we're on. But I went to my first ayahuasca session 20 years ago. And the first person I met was a couple, a little older, and he was Larry. And they kept talking about this book that Terrence McKenna was carrying around the Salt Chemical Arts Festival, and they were both dying to know what it was. They told me about this, right? And they wanted to know, and they wanted to read what was it. And so right when we met and we were talking, I said, "Yeah, I'm a writer," and they're like, "Oh, what have you written?" I go, "Well, my novel right here. It's just coming out." And of course, I pop my trunk and I hand them the copy of the novel, and they're both freaked out, right?
What?
That's crazy.
Yeah, so Lorenzo, we became the best of friends, and Lorenzo started the Psychedelic Salon podcast, and I helped him start it because I had a bunch of recording tapes from the Entheobotany seminars. I don't know if you ever heard of those or not.
No, that's awesome.
So the mid 90s to early 2000s, up until Terrence died, actually, every year they would have Entheobotany seminars. And they were week-long seminars, and one was at the Maya ruins of Uxmal, but mostly they were at the Maya ruins of Palenque. And Terrence would come, and Christian Reich, who was Germany's leading expert in shamanism, Paul Stamets was there, Sasha Shogun and Shogun came, and you'd spend a week. And every day would be there'd be three: a morning seminar, an afternoon seminar, and an evening seminar, like shamanic art or this or that. And it was also a gathering of musicians, artists, writers, and chemists.
Wow.
And so the chemists would all come with their latest concoctions, and Sasha Shogun was like grandfather, Papa Merlin, wizard of all. They would sit at his feet, and he would draw pictures of, this is a DM. He'd say, these are my dirty pictures. Here's DMT molecule, and then he just put it all down like that. And they were both an inspiration to me. So that's where I got to meet Terrence, and we got to be friends and all that. And then, the fact that he got the first book for my printing, and the fact that how I met Lorenzo and all that, it's all kind of wonderful synchronicity, I guess, is what I was kind of driving at.
Yes, synchronicities are amazing. Now, when were you first?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. When were you first introduced to plant medicine and psychedelics, really in general?
So when I was a kid, I loved freaking. I can't remember. Those things in the playground where you hang on and you spin around and get dizzy.
Yep. I know what you're talking about. Little twirly things. I got you.
Yeah, I can't remember what the name for them. Anyway, I love those. And then once I learned how to hyperventilate, I love that. And I kind of mentioned this earlier. Then I started sniffing glue, and that was rocking it. And then I found cannabis and hash, and then soon after LSD. And then once I found LSD, all bets were off. Then it was just full on like kamikaze,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then there were other things back then. There were downers, there were more speed, there were quaaludes, I got strung out on speed a few times in my experimentations. But got away from it. There was none of this shit like they got now. The only things that were psychedelic were LSD and mushrooms, if you could find them. And mushrooms were really, really rare.
Yeah. LSD was super impactful in my life in regards to overcoming binge drinking and stuff, which was always my vice back in the day. But you mentioned something really interesting in your the little thing you filled out before coming on. You said you've had to heal from lack of feminine energy. That totally fascinates me because I know there's like a divine calling for the healing of like divine feminine and divine masculine. What did you mean like you had to heal from lack of feminine energy, and how did you do it?
Okay, it's Uncle Mateo story time.
Let's do it.
If I go on too long, cut me off. But I'll tell you the details. Okay. I was the original tough guy.
Okay.
I was a street fighter. I was in Dorchester. I was always one the smallest kid or the smallest kid.
Okay.
So I had to learn how to fight fast. And as I got a little older and I went into martial arts, I went into martial arts to learn how not to hurt people. Or how to hurt them in a way to cause them maximum pain with minimum damage.
Right.
Because I had hurt people and friends of mine. One guy got jumped with these guys and he got in a fight and he literally beat this guy to death.
Oh my gosh.
14 years old, went to prison for 2 years, right? Now he wasn't trying to beat the guy to death. He was that scared.
Right.
Right? And then I did nothing that bad, but I messed up some people here and there. So anyway, I was the original tough guy. I grew up protecting, I used to have to walk my mom home from the subway station so she wouldn't get mugged. I'd have to walk my sisters home from school. I got jumped a bunch of times, knives pulled on me, all that goes on and on. This is all in my memoir.
Yeah.
I was a tough guy. I had no feminine.
Yeah.
So, and I wondered, and I'm like, well, I don't have feminine. There's no gay thing here or nothing like that. It was like, what, I'm a tough guy.
Yeah.
So, my first shamanic dieta in the jungle in Peru, which was the year 2000. I had, without getting into the details, because everybody's going to have to read the book or listen to the audiobook. But I mean,
yeah.
But I had in my first dieta an embrace of the cosmic feminine.
Wow.
Now, I'm total. If anything, I've been a pagan, or a wild man, or whatever everybody else is. I'm not that. I'm the anti whatever it is.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I went into the jungle thinking, okay, the jaguars are gonna eat me and snakes are gonna bite me, and I'm ready. Right. And this is what I was after. Right, this is a real true story. I'm messing up my book, but that's okay. So, I at one point I had a lucid dream because I was working with ayahuasca and a plant called Bobin Sana, and the dieta and the whole thing. So I had a lucid dream, and for the first time, having that lucid dream, and this is in the jungle, and it was a combination of the plants and the ayahuasca and everything else. But I had that lucid dream, and for the first time, it struck me, okay, you're lucid. Don't go trying to fly through the stars or breathe underwater. Just wait and see what happens. And I was aware of myself in the dream, fully aware. And I was fully aware of myself sleeping in the jungle at the same time.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, and this has happened to me more and more in ayahuasca, but I thought to myself, this is by location. And I was like, fuck.
Wow.
So I remained, kept my mind there. And even though I was fully aware in both places, the fucking dream was more real. So you're going to love the end of this story, and I'm going to cut this a little bit. So in this, I waited.
Wow.
And I was going to a place of gathering with my friend Teresa. And everything was Teresa. Teresa this, Teresa that. It was all about Teresa. And then this energy came to me and said, don't be embarrassed about how you feel about me or something along those lines. And would you like a kiss? And I said, of course I would like a kiss. Almost like, I'm paraphrasing. This is all in my book. It's been a few years. I'm kind of sealing the deal with the kiss. And that kiss was the most profound thing. And she even said at one point, I think she said Santa Teresa. Technically Santa Teresa de Avila. So I got that. And then when she kissed me, I woke up literally with a start, bouncing up out of my freaking bunk. Unbelievable, totally freaked out. It had been more real than real. And I was just totally blown away. So I'm walking around the next day before the next session.
Wow.
And I was asking everybody know anything about you guys, scholars, right? Anybody know about Santa Teresa? Oh, I had heard something, but nothing really. So that night I went to the ayahuasca session, and she came to me in full rapture. My body was just, and she was speaking to me in Spanish, and I understood every word, and yet it was all inside of me. And it was the most exquisite thing in the world, where she just literally kind of, and I willingly let her in, just kind of took me over. And then and then she, like, all this was like telepathic. And she's like, if you feel erotic feelings towards me, that's okay. That's an expression of, there's nothing wrong with that, And I went through this whole thing with her. It was incredible. All right. Here's the capper. And again, I'm paraphrasing. But one of the deals, my mom left the planet about 15 years ago, but she was alive then. And one of the deals, first thing she said to me, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you're going to go sit in the middle of the jungle and hallucinate? And I was like, well, yeah, actually, yeah. And then she heard me on a radio show, and then her anxiety went down because she realized I'd been researching all this stuff, and I wasn't just going in there like, let's go get high kind of thing. So I had to deal with her as soon as I came, because when you're in there for 10 days, you're gone. There's no phone, there's nothing. There's no electricity. So my deal with her was, as soon as I get out of the jungle, as soon as I can get to a phone, call her so she knows I'm okay. So I called her, fresh out of this, when I hit Pocalpa there.
Yeah.
I'm like, Ma, I know you're going to think I fucking really lost it and I've gone off the deep end. But I got to tell you, I had this fucking vision. And I told her more or less what I just told you. And she got really quiet. And I said, what's up, Ma? You going to fucking have me ready for the loony bin when I come home? Or, anyway. And she's really quiet. And she said, I've never said this before to anyone in my life. But your grandmother was a Nazi Catholic. She assigned us saints to pray to. And your aunt was St. Joan. Mine was Santa Teresa de Avila. And every time I've ever done any praying for whatever belief I might have had in anything, I prayed to Santa Teresa. So that was it for me.
Wow.
So here's a little addendum to that.
Me too.
I went through a period of becoming very emotional. I didn't cry for like 30, 35 years. Never cried. And it wasn't like, I'm not going to cry. It's just like, it wasn't there. So I went through a period of little things.
Right.
I started fucking bawling. My mom called me one day and she says to me, it was my birthday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Happy birthday, honey. And the way she said it was so sweet. I just started bawling and bawling. I couldn't even talk. I was bawling my ass off. And since she said, honey, you okay? And I'm like, oh, good. And then she said, this has anything to do with those jungle plants you've been working with? And I'm like,
oh, it's awesome.
She's like, just have a good coffee. Just get yourself together. I'm here, And I was went on for another 5 or 10 minutes before I was really exhausted. And then we talked. Now, going forward from that, and what I was getting in the ayahuasca journeys and visions and all that, is that what happened is that after I had those emotional releases, my intuition went through the roof. Intuition, feminine intuition, actually superior to logic.
Wow.
Intuition's connected with the heart.
That.
So my intuition went through the roof. And then I started becoming and working toward being more balanced. Because I'm still going for the center. Right?
Dude, that is beautiful, man. Wow. Yeah, man, there's so many things on that, with, well, first off, in case anyone doesn't know, because it's interesting. We get half the viewers that understand this stuff, half the people that listen have no clue about
Yeah,
this.
can you, something happened to
can
the
you explain
volume
what
with
a
you? I'm not
dieta
hearing you
is?
very well. Yeah, but it's just not very loud. Can you hear me
no
okay?
worries. Can you hear me now?
Okay, maybe it's not my answer. Ask
interesting.
me that question again.
What's that? I can hear you just fine. Yeah. Some of our viewers
Oh, a
are
dieta.
just
Yeah, sure,
learning about
absolutely.
this stuff. Can you explain what a
Yeah.
dieta is?
So when you go into the jungle, and
Dieta.
the tradition I'm working in is a really the oldest, most prehistoric one, in my humble opinion, and the purest. I've worked in like 4 different traditions, but this is the one I've been with the most. So when you go into the jungle to do a dieta, so dieta is it's diet, but it's it's a plant dieta mostly. So when you go in, the idea is cleansing and purification and clarity, and it's not only a diet in terms of what you ingest, but it's a diet from the world, from the news, from civilization, from stress, from people, because you spend most of your time alone in your tambo, which is an open-air hut. I got pictures of all this stuff too, a bunch of them on my website. But anyway, you spend most of your time alone in your tambo, and they bring you food twice a day, and roughly every other night you do an ayahuasca session. You also are working with another plant or plants during this 10 days. So when I had that revelation, for lack of better words, of Santa Teresa and that connection with my mom and all things feminine and mother, that's what sparked that experience I had. But over all the years I work with, so every day you get a pitcher full of a plant or plants. So every day I got a pitcher full of Bobin Sana, and I had to drink that pitcher every day. With the ayahuasca sessions every other night, and then you would get either oatmeal, quinoa, or rice boiled. And then you would get baked or boiled plátanos, unripe bananas that taste like cardboard. And then you might get a piece of chicken or a piece of fish. Most of the time, though not always. And then no soap, no salt, no shampoo, no mouthwash, no scents of any kinds. And then you get another plant. There's a couple of different ones that they've used, but Wayusita is one of my favorites. They give you a bucket with plants, leaves in it, and you crush up the leaves and you mix it with water, and you use that as a plant bath. And then with the ayahuasca, and they say ayahuasca is the mother of all the other plants. And I work sometimes, like last time I went, I worked with a brew of Renakia and Chuchuwasi, Hanushpawashi, I mean, all these different ones. So sometimes they'll give you a combination of plants. When I go down there now, they blast me because they know. And not only do I do the 5-night ceremonies, but I do 2 ayahuasca journeys all by myself in my tambo. Because I've been at it for a long time, and they, I'm one of them, and they're my family, and I've had all kinds of experiences with different plants. So you do this over 10 days, and you reach tremendous clarity. And because you're ingesting plants and sort of natural foods, and you're giving plant baths, not only are you flushing the toxins out of your system, whether it's sometimes from both ends, which happens with ayahuasca anyway, but this can enhance that process. And then when you're sweating it all out because you're in the rainforest and you're giving yourself plant baths, you're really immersed in plants, and you literally become the jungle. You reach a really kind of a high level of awareness. Like I remember laying down in my tambo there with my eyes closed, and then I didn't hear anything because the jungle's noisy all the time, which I love. I just thought of this person, and I sat up and I looked over, and about just a few seconds later, they came walking over the hill. That kind of stuff, because you're clearing out all the shit and all your ego stuff and your ego are getting put in your face, right? So this last little part, I want to make sure I get this in there while we're having this discussion, is that the battle is really ultimately between the head and the heart. And the head is where the ego resides and where the shadow really resides. And they're trying to do the best thing, so they're not bad. Misguided? Sure, but not really bad. They're trying to, but that's the head and the heart. So what ayahuasca does is it brings you back to the heart, which is superior. And actually the heart has a more denser synaptics and, you know, all of that, neurons and dendrites. It's much denser in the heart, which is more proof that the heart's superior to the head.
Wow.
So ayahuasca brings you to the heart. And for me, being disconnected from my feminine, I was out of touch with my heart because I was a tough guy. Right? And I found my way back to my heart. That's why my other book, The Center of the Universe is Right Between Your Eyes. The home is where the heart is. It's like a map. Yeah, it's a map to what I'm telling, all this stuff I'm telling you. And I'm giving you a real Reader's Digest version overview. I get really deep into it in my books. In my that also came out as an audio book.
That is awesome. Man, that is so cool. So since ayahuasca, man, I have been thriving and like been really wanting to do a dieta. They sound a dieta. They sounds amazing. It sounds like something I want to pursue because I feel like you get so in touch with the plants, you learn about the spirits and all that. It's funny because Megan's a little the opposite.
I mean, like he said, you're in the jungle. Like there's cats, there's snake. Like that's scary. And I. You know, my experiences, I've had to have so much healing from such severe, horrific trauma and abuse in my life that at sort of a young age that my ayahuasca journeys have been horrific and like so sick that I thought I was physically dying, like so like convulsing and just so intense. I feel like I need to do ayahuasca several more times before I can even entertain that idea. You know, like I just do.
That shows great wisdom on your part. So I'll tell you.
Oh, that's awesome.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've always
We're just laughing here. I'm having fun.
Go ahead.
I'm having fun here with you guys.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. So one of my mentors, and I quote this in lectures all the time. It's probably in some of my books. It's a little story, an African story, proverb, or whatever you want to call it. When lions hunt in Africa, they will surround a herd from one end to the other, or whatever they happen to be after. The older lions who can't really hunt and are missing teeth and all that line up all at one end, and the younger agile hunters line up at the other end. And then the older lions start roaring their ass off, stampeding the herd right into the waiting hunters. Right? The moral of the story is always run toward the roar.
Ew.
So, yeah, everything that we're mostly
I love that.
I mean, there's common sense.
That's awesome.
Right? I'm not going to step in front of a Mack truck. It's kind of, that's common sense. But I mean, mostly what we fear is part of our shadow, and our shadow are parts of ourselves that we deny and don't understand. So that's where the gold is. And when you first learn the gifts that the shadow and the darkness have to give, once you embrace them and cease denying them and acknowledge them because they're there, then you begin to get more and more gifts. I mean, even for me, with my wonderful personal discovery of the feminine, is because I was afraid. I'm a tough guy. They're gonna think I'm a pussy. They're gonna think I'm a faggot or something like that, right? You know. And that's the mindset I was conditioned into with all the violence and the racial stuff that went on, you know, everything else. So when you face that, and I was really impressed with myself because before I had big breakthroughs, my very first short story collection is called The Small Dark Room of the Soul. And and this is like before I really broke through. And I had a quote in the beginning in the introduction, and I said, I'm paraphrasing again, I'll probably mess up my own quote, but various spiritual disciplines have urged us to seek the truth. Part of that truth lies within a small dark room, one we are afraid to enter. That one on t-shirts, some guy used it for his podcast and his book. I'm like, go ahead.
These are truth bombs, man. You are dropping so many truth bombs.
This gets back to what I said a little while ago about
it's cool.
looking for the center, so that whether you're in the most blissful, heavenly, multiple existence-bearing spirit-gasm of your life in heaven, or in the deepest get my words all mixed up, deepest, darkest depths of hell, when you really work the center, you can remain within those situations and maintain, because there's peace at the center. You know, what happens in the eye of a storm? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's where the power is. Shamanism is
calm
considered to
in
be
the center.
Among other things, the power path.
Yeah.
And the power path is there to lead you home, which is back to the center, which is the source. Which is what we call it anyway, once we quit trying to deny it.
Wow. So you've been studying shamanism. Like, are you, and this might be a dumb question, but are you studying to, like, practicing to be a shaman? And would you ever consider facilitating? Or do you just, like, use shamanism, like, throughout your day?
Yeah.
Or what's that path looking like for you?
I had a podcast with this guy last year, and he named it Everybody's a Shaman. So what I like to say now, over many years, is that everybody's a shaman, except most of us don't know it. I don't like to, I won't call a lot of people have called me a shaman. I don't like it. I even yelled at a guy on a show one time for calling me that. And then I realized that I was making too big of a stink, and I was actually drawing too much attention to it. So then I started to say, I like Shamanic Explorer, which I have on my webpage, but I don't want to call myself shaman. It's such a pop culture thing. And I would give a lecture on shamanism, like someplace, and invariably some cute little hottie girl would come running up to me. Oh, my boyfriend's a shaman. Here's his business card. You know, some 19-year-old kid, right? And I'd be like, I'm gonna puke, right?
Oh my gosh! You got to fight everything you can not to.
I don't want to be that. So I've been facilitating for, let's see, 15 years about. I've been facilitating, and I got really hot about 12 years ago, and then people started turning me into a guru, and so I bailed for a while. I don't want to play that shit. But now I'm realizing that was that.
Wow.
Now, and so when you say facility, you mean you've been for 14 years facilitating ayahuasca, right? Now, have you ever facilitated like anything like San Pedro, Iboga, or any other plant medicines?
And as part of that, we spent time in the jungle. We spent time up in the Indies working with San Pedro shamans. We spent time on mushroom journeys. I did the whole Huichol peyote hunt to Wirakuta. I did the all-night ceremony. I did the pilgrimage to Mount Quemado. I've been doing all this stuff. I've done all these things, and so I'm very much versed in all the traditions. So even before all this, I'm not kidding you, I must have taken thousands of people on the first LSD trip. And back then it was all 4-way. And back then when I took somebody like that, I was such an acid head. When I took somebody like that, I would take twice as much as they did. And then they'd be out there flying and freaking out, and I look at them, and they'd be losing it. And I look at them, and I go, I took twice as much as you, and everything's fine with me, and bring them right back, you know? I've done... Well, it's experience more than anything else.
Awesome.
I mean, I joke about it, but I trained for LSD by hyperventilating and sniffing glue. You know? And then when I did LSD and mushrooms, maybe I was training for ayahuasca. Right? But I mean, I've worked with all these different plant medicines, and now I like to say, I'm an authority on it.
Yeah.
I am an authority on shamanism. You know, my historical novel, Land Without Evil.
Absolutely.
Came out of an honors course in anthropology. I got the nod from the anthropologist, and I got the literary nod. I don't know if you saw on my website, but that got turned into an amazing stage show in Austin, Texas, back in 20. Oh, man. Yeah, we had 50 people in the cast and crew.
That's awesome.
Dancers, video projection, music, songs, costumes. They were all from Burning Man. They're all burners. It was such a cool experience. 50 people in the cast and crew, and we did 8 shows. Yeah. Anyway.
Jeez,
Wow.
that's awesome.
Now, you talked about how, like, you know, like the more you do ayahuasca, how like spiritual gifts that may have been dormant, you know, how they can awaken. You know, what all do you feel like have been your spiritual gifts that you really have seen flourish and awaken from these, you know, experiences with the plant medicine and the plant spirit?
There's a few things. One of the things I've been stepping into, both in writing and in psychedelics and shamanism, is accepting my elderhood. Because most of my elders and mentors are gone. There's a few left here and there, but I'm really carrying the torch. So I have to accept that responsibility to keep it alive, and I have to be there, like I was saying earlier, about being there, you know, subversive for younger people or whatever. I've got tons of knowledge and I've got tons of experience and I've learned a lot. And I'm older now, so this isn't ego. This is the fucking reality of it. Pardon my French. Yeah, so that's a reality. And I've been teaching writing for
absolutely.
30 years.
Love the confidence. Love it.
You know, I've always been a bit of a leader kind of person. Even when I was in tech school, in Mississippi in the Air Force there for electronics, they made me a student leader. It's just always been a thing for me. My grandmother always pushed me to go my own way, and I ended up becoming a leader because everybody was going with the crowd, and when I'd go the other way, half, if not all of them, would go with me because I was always just going my own way. You know, if what you guys are all doing is fun, I want to do it, great. But if I want to do something else, I'm not going because I think I should be there, kind of a thing, you know? So that and the all of the experience I've had and what I've learned and the value of the knowledge and the ways that I've learned, it's my purpose, among other things, to share that. I've struggled all my life with my writing to be able to take a psychedelic experience, which is by its very nature non-rational, and put it into words for other people to have some sense of what it might be like, because they may never get to do it.
Yeah.
All the stuff I've done now, how many people in the world have had the experiences I've had like that? I mean, that's so blessed, right? So, you know, I share it. They did an analysis on it when I did the 2 years Shamanic study program, and there are different, I won't get into the details of it, but there are different characteristic types. Like there's the priest, the warrior, the king, the server, the artisan, the scholar, and the sage. And they did this sort of analysis on me and told me I was a sage with the warrior casting, which totally makes sense. You know, among other things, a sage is a storyteller and a teacher, and that's what I've been doing for all these years, you know? So that fits me, and that's what they told me, and so I'll take that, right?
Wow. That's so cool to see how you evolved, because like you would probably originally be like, oh, I'm a warrior, but then as you're evolved and you've like grown and had this experience, it's like, no, you're a sage with a warrior casting. Like that's you are a warrior, but there's this other part of you that like is a teacher and a mentor and like is supposed to
that's why I became a warrior.
Others
that's what I went to
heal.
battle for.
That's
the fruits of the labor,
man.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, man. Wow. Dude, this is so cool. Like you've done so many things that I feel so I would love to just follow that path. That's crazy. Man, this is so cool. You've also written 15 books. That's awesome. We're actually, Megan and I are our first book we've ever written is in editing now, and it's called Maegical, A Story of Healing. But do you have any advice for first-time authors at all?
First off, people ask me, they come to the conferences that I teach at and lecture at and blah, blah. And the first thing I say to them is, writing equals ass in chair. That's not original, but that's a very profound piece of writing wisdom. So the second thing and you're making me plug myself in, but that's okay. I wrote a book. So so I've been teaching at these writers' conferences, primarily the Santa Barbara Writers Conference and the Southern California Writers Conference, tons of others. And that's where I got to be mentored by Ray Bradbury. Anybody knows who he was? with Charles Schultz, Charlie Brown Peanuts. Famous, yeah. His son Monty still owns the conference.
Oh, nice.
But they were all my mentors. They all took me under their wing at a young age, and embraced me. So over the years, what started off to be horror, fantasy, and science fiction, which I've written a lot of, I turned my workshop into fantastic fiction with a PH. So, fantastic fiction, literature of the visionary, supernatural, metaphysical, horror, fantasy, and science fiction. Because I specialize in that. And when I first started teaching that, I was the youngest workshop leader there for 15 years.
Yeah.
So what I discovered over time is that the shaman's journey to the underworld, where they get transformed, in the jungle it's called being eaten by the jaguar. That transformation is actually the origins of the hero's journey. Have you ever heard of the hero's journey? Joseph Campbell? So there are elements of stories that are universal, and as just as a case in point, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, every single one of them follows the hero's journey. It's that universal. Like follows them like a quiver. And those are some of the biggest cultural things in our that we've had, and that explains why. Because you're hearing this universal archetype of story. Well, that all goes back to the shaman's journey to the underworld, where in the jungle they'll get swallowed by the jaguar. Awesome. In other cultures, they're decapitated. In other cultures, all their bones are taken out and then supposedly replaced by quartz. All these transformational, and then they come back as a man or a woman of power. They come back with the Holy Grail. They come back with the ring get the ring to Mordor. They have that victory because they face their darkest fear, which is the protagonist. The protagonist is actually their shadow. So my point of all that is I wrote a book around that, and my fantastic fiction book is called Fantastic Fiction: A Shamanic Approach to Story. So I wrote that book, and it got an International Book Award for writing and publishing. And on the cover, it's a shaman dancing in the middle of a fire, which is the essence of transformation. So it's out there on Amazon, and it's an ebook, and it's a tree book. So it's totally accessible. If you really want to know, and I've had a number of nonfiction writers thank me for what they learned from that book that helped them in their nonfiction too.
I appreciate that. We are definitely checking that out, man. This has been such an I could talk for hours more, but we're like at the last few minutes here. Bring us up to speed. What are you at now? What are you working on? And tell us how people can get in touch with
bless you, my brother.
And just plug away.
So all anybody has to do for starters is Google my name, Matthaw, Pallamary, P as in Paul, Alla, M as in Mary, Ary. And the first thing that comes up is my website, mattpallamary.com. So there's a contact form there. If anybody really wants to reach out for whatever different reasons, they can fill that out and they will email me. And we can connect that way. And then if anybody who does go there, I suggest drilling down through the menus. Like I have an audio section, and I probably got 40 other podcasts. There's a bunch: Psychedelic Salon, Inner Journey, Sea Realm, Black Light in the Attic. All these. When I first went on the Psychedelic Salon podcast, and some people heard me, suddenly there were like 6 people wanted me on their podcasts. So anyway, I got a bunch of podcasts there. I have a video section where either lectures or radio or TV shows I've done that were recorded are there. I have tons of photos of the jungle and the plants and all this stuff I'm talking about. And then there's a special section on the Land Without Evil show with all the fun stuff that happened there. And then there's sections on shamanism. There's links to my books, all that stuff. So if anybody goes and is really interested and drills down, there's lots of information. There's some writing, podcasts that are all there for the taking. And then, of course, if you want to get deeper into some of the stuff we discussed today, take a look at my books. And I also have weird books. I have horror books. I have science fiction books. I have science fiction horror. I have supernatural thrillers. I got gothic horror novels. I got a million of them. Anyway, my website's the best way to find me. And I want to appreciate you guys having me on today. It's a lot of fun. So thank you for all that and everything else.
This has been awesome, man. This and anyone that has any, if you missed any of that he said, listen back to it, or if you want to reach out to us, we'll put you right in contact with this amazing man. Thanks so much for everything. The last thing we always do, we always end with one question. If you could leave the world with one message, we got 1 minute left, so this is good timing. If you could leave the world with one message, what would it be?
Or maybe find the truth and never relent.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. That is badass. That's a mic drop right there. That's the perfect way to end it. Thank you so much, Mateo, for being on here, man. We look forward to staying into contact with you 100%. It's crazy how much our path is going towards so much of what you've done. So I would love to stay, and we're definitely staying in contact with you.
You too.
Thanks again for making this happen, and you have a good rest of your have a good rest of your weekend, man.
Yes, thank you so much.
Let's make it happen. All right. You too, man. Take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Do it.
Awesome. Happy healing.